chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, there we go. Good evening. Hi. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you so much. It keeps happening since we've done an update. But yeah, hearing you actually, thank you for your feedback here because it really helps. I hope everything is good now. That's okay. You won't miss anything. I will. Thank you, Michelle. I will actually repeat everything. I did the routine welcome. Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. It's good to be back with you on this Tuesday evening. Yesterday, we've gotten excellent feedback. I thank you for your participation as well. And it definitely add depth, more content, gave us an idea, context, sorry, gave us more of an idea of what the feeling, thank you, of what we're feeling is on the ground. But even since yesterday's episode, Finance Committee is still on. And just before coming live, the Honorable Minister responsible for immigration was actually giving his statement as to what could be expected and what plans as it aligns to this budget session was going. What I did capture, though, which was in small amounts because I'll have to go back and watch what he's saying because I have to deliver here for you, is that one of the biggest things, first of all, the immigration reform. Remember, all the town hall consultation meetings have now ended. And what he did say is that that will not be before the House now in 2025. So the immigration reform bill, based on all of the recommendations after the public consultation and town hall meetings that were had, that it was important that they will take into consideration what was said by industry stakeholders, that means businesses, advocacy groups, and persons. They will be working, and he and his ministry's team will be working closely with the Department of Education, making sure that at the end of the day, that, Caymanians are not left on the back foot again with not having the skill sets or access to the skill sets, training, that sort of stuff to prepare them into the world, into the working world. And another thing that he highlighted was sham marriages, frivolous marriages, and that they will be bolstering up and making sure that persons are held accountable and that there's an environment created that if persons knows, I'm paraphrasing all of this, again, I will actually go in a deep dive tomorrow once I've had an opportunity to go back, because I know there's going to possibly be number of questions that are going to be asked. But another thing that was highlighted is the high number of temporary work permits that the department has been receiving, where they're receiving large numbers of temporary work permits of 3 months, then goes to an extension of an additional 3 months before going into a 1-year application. And it appears as though persons are, instead of going straight for a 1-year work permit, they have chosen the route of temporary for more than one reason. You get the persons here quicker, number one, because you get an answer a little quicker, but also they're using that as an opportunity to put people on probation, and then they will then go for the 1 year. The minister also highlighted that there were a number of persons as far away as the Philippines, for example, in Nepal, that are actually coming here, obviously on an approved work permit, I'm assuming, based on how it was delivered, and finding out that there is actually no work for them to do. Now, that speaks a lot on both sides, the applicant, and it also shows that processes can be looked at as to how these applications too are actually being considered. And then you look at what would be, how would you penalize these employers should that actually happen and it is a legit work permit. Now, there's another thing, because we saw where work was out on an operation and they were actually nabbing or found persons. I see there's an article as well where somebody from Nepal has been charged, found guilty of immigration crimes and frivolous paperwork. And that's one element of enforcement. But if there are actually persons who are getting legitimate work permits And still, when the persons arrive from wherever they're coming from, legitimately there's no work. That speaks different volumes as well. And should that actually be the case, and it was legitimately applied for, and you see where the employer then has provided false information that could justify the board coming to a decision to approve the work permit, but yet there's no legitimate work, then how do you penalize those applicants? In that case, the employer. And again, it looks as though that is where a lot of the enforcement arm and skilling up and probably hiring more persons to identify these things, even with the sham marriages, empowering people and creating an environment and a space where persons can feel comfortable to report these sham marriages, so to speak, and just hold persons accountable. So there's a lot more that I'm sure is being said, but because we're live, I'm not hearing it, and based on how the questions are posed. But that's pretty much it. As we know, I don't know if any more public consultations will be had. This is all speculative right now because there are still a lot of questions persons are asking where immigration reform is concerned. But what was made clear, and what I did hear him actually said publicly in Finance Committee, is that it will not be debated right in this year. It will be debated next year. So in 2026. I guess that is because of them trying to possibly formulate all the feedback that they have gotten. Maybe persons have written in based on the town hall meetings, based on what feedback they have gotten for being on the various platforms, podcast platforms. I know they were on Sandra and so forth, and all of the other radio stations, making sure that persons had an opportunity to hear exactly what this reform was posing. But that is one thing because of the public consultations being done and persons given an opportunity to hear what is being proposed. When you hear the cry of your people saying that they don't feel as though they are a belonger anymore, or they feel, that they're not a part of the place that they call home, that we're just growing too fast. And, that in itself puts a lot of pressure on any government to make sure that you answer the will of the people. But one thing you can't take away, and you shouldn't take away when you do certain things, is the heart and soul of who we are, but creating a same balance and making sure that you are doing the will of the people. And I think that's where they're finding quite challenging. The minister did say, and he was quite firm with saying that, and we all know that he inherited this problem and from former and previous successive governments. And now he is going to do what he has to do in order to implement change. For whatever reasons, your feedback is critical for this in navigating this space. And this is why you cannot be silent. No, you can't be. You can't be silent here when we're doing all of this sort of stuff. So that's it right now that's happening on the floor of Parliament. I do have a short weather thing because I didn't get the weather in detail today, but that's your forecast for this evening, which will be very short because I want to get into the crooks and crannies where these new revenue fees and people were asking about getting their pension. I just wanted to go into details with how that could impact should persons want to leave this country, expatriates of all nationalities. We're not just going after one nationality here. And I came across a very interesting article as well that weighed in on these fees. But yes, the latest weather compliments of the Cayman Islands National Weather Service calls for moisture from a surface low along with light southeasterly winds could result in a few cloudy spells and associated showers across the Cayman Islands through tomorrow morning. A high pressure system builds over the southeast United States, resulting in moderate winds and seas across our area from tomorrow morning. And as you can see, the current temperature is 87 degrees Fahrenheit, but I feel like of 72. The winds are southeast 5 to 10 knots with higher gusts. Seas are slight with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet, and sunset this evening will be at 5:40 6:45 this evening. Now, if you're heading out town to watch the drone show that was canceled or could not be had on Saturday evening, that's going to kick off at 7 o'clock. Yeah, they're going to have the drone show. So that's down on Harbor Drive. Whatever happened, apparently they were blocked. The drones were blocked. Signal was blocked. So that couldn't be had. But yeah. Let's say to all of our November 18th birthday and wedding anniversary people, happy anniversary to you and happy birthday to all of you as well. Good evening, Marshall. How are ya? Damian Henry in the house. Thank you for that heads up. Jack, you too. Thank you for that heads up. Yes. Oh, you guys are so helpful. I guess that's weird seeing my note going and not hearing a word out of it. Hey, Michelle Woods. Good evening, Iva. Good to see you here. And Miss Barb, I see you. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing all the information that you are sharing with me. And as we continue to navigate this space and definitely share all that's happening. And I noticed during the evenings, the later it gets, the more traffic we get as well. And that's all right. That's okay. The good thing with these podcasts is that you can join us at various sections of the evening, various times of the evening, and you can always go back. And that's the key. But I wanted to look into the realities of what persons are sharing with me. And I'm trying my best, and I will do my best, as I always do, of talking about the diversification and the dynamics of how the Cayman Islands is made up. We are small in our size, and we know that. And you're welcome to join in, as usual, into this participation. Please, 936-8255 is the number to call to join in the conversation, because without you, it's not possible. Comment here via Facebook, comment via YouTube, or give us a call. The number is on the top of your screen, 936-8255 to join in. But I want to talk about who we really are as a nation. And I'm talking Caymanians. Yes, us. Because we are a melting pot. Based on stats, there are over 100 different countries. Yes. In our country. We have over 100 different nations right here. And when you look at even us as Caymanians, we make up, as Caymanians, just over half of the population. Now, when you get into the nooks and the crannies, the highest number is Jamaicans. They form the largest expatriate group. And that is also followed by Filipino nationals. Then you have the British nationals, Indians, and the other countries make up about 11-12%. But in total, more than 100 nationalities has called our home their home. And when you look at the sheer size, that's extraordinary for a country of our size. So I understand the frustration that we're all feeling, the pent-up demand saying we need to take back our country. This is not looking like our country. This is not feeling like who we are. This is not sounding like who we are. But one thing I need to try and say, that unless you entered here illegally, every expat would have entered here legally, either by way of a work permit, a government contract, marriage, or let's say status on the grounds of descent, because you found out your lineage thanks to all of this gold digging up stuff, and you can find out that you have true Caymanian heritage and you can be here by descent. So let's think about over 100 flags, over 100 cultures, whether or not you like it or not, all contributing to our economy, to our schools, and to our neighborhoods as well, in our homes. Yeah. So when we talk about, let's say, the entire immigration reform, and let's remember one key thing, and I'll go more into this as we get into the immigration reform, which we now know will actually be debated next year. Thank you, Israel. We'll go into more debate in 2026. But no one arrived uninvited. Every nationality here is a part of our Caymanian story. And one big takeaway, you can't really legislate people's behavior. You can keep them in line, but that culture. And I think when we're crying for immigration reform, it's being a little mixed with some of the bad acting and the nasty practices, bad cultures that are creeping in that is making us feel as though we're not even in our own home. Okay? And that, my friends, is what you call imported cultures and behaviors. And that is what I'm hearing at the core of our Caymanians, even when we speak. And even though it is immigration reform, and we say we need to get rid of some of these people, we're not going there with any one nationality today. Because like I said, there's over 100 amongst us. And when you look at reform and immigration, it's not just about numbers. It also is about cultures and behavior. Okay? We, the Cayman Islands, has imported not only workers when we apply for these work permits that hopefully we're going to get under control because we're going to make sure that our locals are trained up accordingly and they will feel more embracing and get better paying jobs and be able to see themselves climb that successive ladder, right? But when we also import these workers, we also import their traditions, their lifestyles, their values from around the world that they're coming from. And sometimes these cultures will blend beautifully based on how they're presented. And other times they clash. Yes, they clash with Caymanian ways of life. But here's the challenge. And I said this earlier on, because even though we are in the process of rewriting our immigration legislation that has had public feedback and consultation, you cannot write immigration legislation against a culture or a behavior. Laws really can regulate entry, residency, and work permits, but they cannot regulate respect, unity, or community spirit. And don't care how long a person has been away from their home, their culture, their traditions, that remains with them. They can observe what's happening around them, but you can never rid that of them. Not how they coexist amongst us and how much leeway that is given is largely dependent on even how we respect each other and who we are. So when you look at why immigration reform must be about balance and not blame, it boils down to that very same thing. Because of what I just said. You can't legislate kindness. You cannot legislate culture and understanding. That has to come from the individual, but most importantly, from us. Even with religions right here. You know, we are a God-fearing society. Our liquor licensing law or Sunday trades law was born on that very same Christian heritage and culture. But I'm hearing it from a lot of our people that too now is fading, that now is being diluted. And I did an episode here where we talked about the Sunday trades law, whether or not that should be relooked at. And when you look at all of the companies or industries that pretty much has an exemption, you might as well say we are open on Sundays. But looking at the religious factor and understanding that Cayman is predominantly of Christian faith, that is Anglican, Baptist, Catholic, Seventh-day Adventist, Church of God, and non-denominational churches, that they really shape much of our culture life. But we also have a growing number, but vibrant communities of Hindus, Muslims, Jews, and Buddhists as well. Now, this mix, my friends, reflects exactly what I'm saying about the nationalities that we have here in the importation of their cultures, their traditions, and all of that. But this mix reflects Cayman's global connections and its openness. So religion here is not just about faith. It's also about identity, belonging, and respect. But that respect, my friends, also goes both ways. When we look at exactly what is being imposed right now with all of the fees and all this sort of stuff and the reassurance repeatedly that we're given, that will not impact us. I will share a link below, an article that I came across, and the author actually just broke it down pretty much in the same vein as to what reports have been coming back, stating, that dignity, morals is a question and what it means. But it's, again, and some of the things I will be saying here this evening will be a bit repetitive. Like, immigration reform is just not about numbers. It is, in this case, also who enters, how they enter, and why they stay. Because every expatriate came here legally, either through a work permit, a government contract, marriage, or grounds of descent. And again, for emphasis, no one arrived uninvited for whatever reason. And when they come here on work permits, you must realize they have to be invited by employers to fill the roles. By government contracts, especially the public service. Marriage, that automatically gives them family ties and builds lives here. And of course, then you have the descent on the grounds of grandparent and parent, and even through children. So the key takeaway is no one arrived uninvited. But the real challenge is really what I'm finding out now. And you're seeing it. And I am being as nonpartisan, as brutally honest as I can, and as truthful as I can, respectfully. The real challenge is not expatriates versus Caymanians, It is us, Caymanians, uniting ourselves to shape the future. That's the problem. I see where we are more a divided society and we're not uniting. And division amongst ourselves as Caymanians really weakens the push for fair reform, because then it's being born on anger. And when that anger builds, when we curse nationalities instead of addressing policy. And then it's this them against us or us against them. And when you look at the whole package of immigration reform, we must realize that reform cannot succeed if Caymanians ourselves are disjointed, if we're fragmented, if we're not united. You have heard me spoke about that on this platform numerous times, over and over and over. The truth is, our biggest problem is not our expats. It's each and every one of us failing to unite amongst ourselves. And until we fix that, I can assure you, reform will be difficult. Because at the end of the day, we need a balance. And when it comes to these fees, and this article that I read as well pretty much said the same thing. That's a shock therapy. We need a balance. We need it with dignity. And at the end of the day, we all have to live amongst each other because we all have our part to play. And we need to develop a strong Cayman. Is an environment where Caymanians can rise and see that opportunity to rise to leadership. You always heard me talking about succession planning. And I heard the minister saying what he wants to do with education and trades and all that sort of stuff. But it also needs to create an environment where also businesses can afford to hire. We're talking now about these imposition of fees for non-Caymanians. And at the end of the day, there's only one word that can see that comes to mind with that, discrimination. I'll give more context to that. But our country, as also replicated in this article that I will share the link below so that you can read it in its entirety, that we need that environment as well where expats and locals can actually work together, because there's some truths that I'm going to share with you. Even though all that is being said right now, Cayman has to realize there are some truths. The statistics, our ESO office, not me, has proven that when it comes to the working market. And expats and locals must be able to create an environment where we work together. Because in this space, if you get that balance right, the economy grows sustainably. It isn't knee-jerk. It isn't stop and go. It isn't panic. It isn't unrest. And then you will find that opportunities expand and not constrict. Since Friday, I know of a lot of businesses right now that are outsourcing services, cutting back staff. Caymanian-owned businesses. And it's, even though they're not outsourcing those services overseas with other service providers locally, that's necessarily going to be replicated, but it doesn't mean that the services are going to be outsourced locally. They could be going overseas. This is not to fairmonger. This is really just giving the facts, okay? But in this whole Cayman balance as well, and not a shock therapy as we gotten on Friday, it also would show that foreign investors feel confident and not scared. Yeah. We cannot, in this article, they stated, we cannot protect Caymanians, and I quote, by destabilizing the very economy that it employs them. That's not protection. That's sabotage disguised as patriotism, end quote. I will share the entire article with you. So when you hear the likes of myself and Danny talks about us uniting, educating, informing, cut the divide, and yes, acknowledge that we do need reform, but it's how you approach it. The call for unity couldn't be stronger, my friends. And here's the truth. Here is the truth. Anger is building. Anger is building. We look at our society, it is a melting pot of cultures. And that diversity in itself brings strength, but also can bring tensions. And we're not dismissing the fact that Caymanians feel displaced, overlooked. Some expatriates are now definitely feeling unwelcome. And some may not integrate fully, or they may not even understand Caymanian traditions. And there's nothing wrong with us defending our turf, but there's some real truths that I'm about to break. The Cayman Islands is no different from anywhere else in the world. As a matter of fact, we're unique in so many ways just because of our indigenous population, that we have more work than we have people to fill them. That's bold in italic. But in every immigration reform, that also brings cultural negotiations. But cursing nationality, cursing one another, will not solve the problems. And let me tell you straight, Caymanians cannot fill every job overnight if expats leave. And I know some of us will say, we don't care. Let them go. It's about time. I respect your opinion. I totally respect if that's where your mindset is, for whatever reason that anger is born to make such a profound statement that is factual, but it's not sustainable. Yeah, because that's really the fact. Caymanians cannot fill every job. That isn't happening anywhere in the world. And worse, overnight. And if expats can't thrive without respects from locals and it's reciprocated, oh my goodness. That, my friends, only one word comes to mind, and that's unity. Unity is the only way forward. And immigration reform must show some fairness, transparency, and also opportunities, which is what Caymanians are calling for. Not division, as we're seeing possible could happen with how these fees are being imposed and targeting expatriates. Of course, we as Caymanians deserve security. I'd be the first one in the front of the line. But I'm a realist as well, that we don't have the population right now in order to keep money coming into this country unless you do something like what is being proposed. But they also deserve, expatriates and locals alike deserve dignity. But our leaders owes every one of us openness and honesty, even when it hurts, at all times. And I know some will say this is not political expediency. We are checking the box that we're doing what we're going to do in the first year. But at the end of the day, the truth will come out in the rinse. Yeah. Because the problems presented so that our citizens feel they're not an afterthought in our own country is born on when we have the real hard conversations until we really, really can do better. And that's not using them and then kicking them to the curb. It's all about dignity. Let's go to some of the comments that I'm seeing here. And I thank you for that. Hey, Connie Bonnie, how are you, my love? It's good to see you. Celia, good evening to you as well. Sonia, blessed love to you as well, my love. Keith, good evening. How are you? We are the only country in the world with a Bible verse on our flag, Psalms 24:2. Caymanians are special people in the eyes of Jesus. Thank you, Keith, for sharing that with us. Okay, then, I don't. What you were clapping to at that time, Connie Bonnie? Barbara G. Unity has always been a problem here. Sadly, most of that came from not knowing themselves. Yeah, well, that's true too, Miss Barbara. And I feel that more and more as we actually navigate this space and the realization that the world is moving, Caymanians and Cayman has a choice to make. And if that was the case and we just wanted to remain how we are, I can understand the clarion call for not wanting or to slow down our population, but do that delicately. Then I wonder why we opened back up post-COVID. Did we see what that caused? To this day, we still have persons who are saying that was illegal. We see the damage and the long-term damage that it has done to our tourism industry. But if we wanted to actually see whether or not, bang, we're going to do a solid freeze. We're not going to let anybody else in unless you're Caymanian, married to a Caymanian, or permanent resident status. That's it. No more. The skill sets that got locked down here with us and who stayed with us during the lockdown, who did not travel, who did not leave, that's it. We're closed. Financial services, they do what they have to do online. And what then happens to medical tourism? Only them get flown in? I'm just using this as a scenario, food for thought. If that is really what we wanted, we should have never reopened then. But I said that deliberately because we saw the call for those persons working in the hotels. We saw those calls for those persons working overall in the hospitality industry. And then we've had cases where you had to fly in special experts because the expertise just wasn't readily and available locally in order for certain things to maintain their warranty, which is a manufactured thing. I'm just using this as examples. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, the Cayman Islands law generally has to be fair, balanced, inclusive of everyone, but understand that they could have residual effects if not implemented with dignity, and it could actually have more impact and damage on our locals, our businesses, than we actually can wrap our head around. I'm not telling you that you don't look in the now, but you also have to prepare for the future as well. Okay. Good evening, Miss Rose. How are you? It's so good to see you here with us. We're just speaking in general because I've got over some questions in regards to pension, which I'm actually going into that now because some persons are saying, look, if we're not wanted here, what does the law says about pensions? Can we leave prematurely? And I will break that down for you. Okay, I will break that down because I promised that as from yesterday, but we went into another about digital ID, which again is not off the table. I see breaking news where the Premier as well stated that a lot of the funding that is going is for a digital footprint and how the Office of the Premier would be operated. They're actually going paperless, again, embracing the digital era. So that's a different topic, but of course, I am willing to entertain it. 9368255, should anyone call and want to actually go there if you were listening to Finance Committee and the presentation being made by our Honorable Premier. Celia, tell me who caused us to have so many different. It is the law via immigration. I'm afraid it much too late. Oh, well, that's what I said, Celia. Not one person came here uninvited because even on the grounds of descent, they were an expat until you got Caymanian status. You're considered an expat until you get that. Even our very own who apply for status on the grounds of descent or entitlement. Once you come in here and you don't have that status, until that confirmation is given to you, be it by the board or by the director of work, you're considered an expat. Yeah. Not one on a work permit, not one that's on a government contract came here uninvited. They were invited, don't care how it's dressed up, either by a job application, a job advertisement, be it in government or private sector or a statutory authority. And the reason why it was made public, and now we're seeing how the processes feel at Caymanians, saying some of these advertisements are not designed for their own, for them. You're competing internationally. And Caymanians are saying, even if I'm capable of doing the job and I have to apply for certain jobs, someone coming with international exposure or experience is given a priority. Now, the Honorable Minister also said something about accreditation, the accreditation system where employers are awarded based on them actually showing that they're doing the right thing and how much Caymanians they employ and all that sort of stuff. I'm really hoping that that can come to fruition, because that has been talked about. I have been in immigration law now for 20-something years, and the accreditation system was something that was talked about before Mr. Manderson became deputy governor. Yeah, that's how long it's been talked about. So I'm really hoping now, under the current climate, that accreditation system, even though it started and it stopped and the business staffing plan came on board, where persons then had to file a business plan and they had certain conditions based on certain positions. That was as closest thing to the accreditation system with the BSB, but it was never the accreditation system for big organizations or for organizations as a whole, was never truly implemented under immigration that awarded good behavior once they can demonstrate that they have created an environment where Caymanians are welcome, are given fair opportunities, and they're employed. And then should they have a need where they need a work permit, they would have been able to demonstrate through this point system, the accreditation system, that they wouldn't have a hard time, because their percentage in work permit foreign help would be so low that it's almost like, okay, that must be an exceptional situation. Okay. So I know that for a fact, because those days, Mr. Manderson and I actually worked together. So to hear the Honorable Minister saying from an organizational standpoint, from a business perspective, that there are actually looking at the accreditation system was music to my ears. I just want to make sure now, and hopefully now that it can roll out, and that Caymanians now will be given a fair chance in upward mobility, or better chances once they meet the requirements, have the required skill sets, or given the opportunity to have the right skill sets, and then ultimately be employed, and not feel that glass ceilings are created, be it in government, statutory authorities, department, and private sector. Because what is being said in conversations, that private sector is not the only problem, that this problem is existing even in government. Yeah. So Caymanians are talking that it's not just in the private sector. And I know that the deputy governor is actually working on situations where it shows that Caymanians, even in the government system, will be given a chance once they have the required skill set for upward mobility. Yeah. So this spinoff with persons now opting to leave, but I want to leave with my pension. Celia, that answers that question. I mean, nationalities. Yeah, all these different nationalities were invited by whichever employer. And of course, if they got the work permit approved, that's a different nationality. Damian Henry, alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Helen Keller. Well, that's true. That's true. Well said. Thank you for sharing that. We can. But unity will be the backbone of our very own survival. And it's going to start with every one of us as Caymanians. As I said, the recent release, I've had a number of persons reached out to me the revenue proposal, the impended immigration reform that says rollover now could possibly be 2 years, and all of that. The whole intricacies or the outcomes from the public to consultation now, I'm quite sure we will hear when the minister actually tables this bill in 2026, as he alluded to a short moment ago in his delivery in Finance Committee. But we've had persons asking what laws are in place for expatriates who choose to leave the Cayman Islands before retirement age, but who want to leave with their pension contributions. And since, and I'm paraphrasing now based on the conversation, this, whether or not the government should consider allowing persons to take with them when they go, because the environment now is appearing to be a bit divided, divisive on expatriate workers, and some are calling to go back home. They would have no problem going back home to their country of origin, so that Caymanians who feel displaced can get better paying jobs and own property, because then it wouldn't be nabbed up by these expatriates as what is being stated, right? Now, the quick answer to the pension part of it is that currently the Cayman Islands law generally does not allow expatriates to withdraw their pension contributions early unless their balance are under 5,000 CI dollars, right? Now, they also have to meet a specific conditions like permanent departure. So if you're going to prove that you're going to leave and really don't come back, and refund eligibility. Some of you have actually said that to me, that if they can actually get their pensions, they will leave and not come back. The National Pensions Act is designed really to protect retirement savings, but debates, they're debating pretty much continues, is ongoing about whether an expatriates, as being asked, are able to take their funds when leaving. So let's just look at that for a moment. Because in real context, again, taken from this article, it's a moral one, to be honest. Keith, let's see what you're saying here so that I can keep up with my messages. There are employers who have their employees paying for their own work permits and also paying for their health insurance on their own without any contributions for the employer. Unless these breaches of immigration law, Keith, are reported, enforcement cannot start an investigation and hold these employers accountable. Keith, and that is the problem. The expatriate workers come here for a better way of life. Obviously, they are getting paid, and based on the currency exchange versus here and in their own country, they can actually, under some of the worst conditions, they can create some sort of funding for their children going to school back in their own country. They can start building a home, or they can give their extended family from where they're coming with the sacrifice of leaving their family to come here and work. And they will do whatever it takes, sometimes without complaining or even reporting, even though it is against the law. And that is morals. And a lot of our unscrupulous employers take advantage of that notion, of that fact. And yes, you are quite right, Keith. Until there is a enforcement raid of some sort and in statement gathering, these workers, these expatriate workers, actually can prove that they are paying their own work permits, bearing in mind, unless their employers are using an agency, it's hard to prove who's paying for the work permits, because the work permit receipts are issued in the name of the employer. There is no way on the surface, immigration or that receiving officer, when that application is being submitted, can prove where that money is coming from to do the submission of that, unless the victim, aka the worker, actually says so. Now, that, Keith, goes into another thing. Remember, a lot of cash in many cases is being exchanged. And yeah, I'm going into a different area right now. That's why digital currency would be able to identify easier who's paying for what. Right now, you can't. And this is what is being sold to stop illegal employment. And in this case, this is where digital currency could actually nab those. You get where I'm going with that, Keith? This is by no means personally, it's for the purpose of this conversation, I'm for or I'm against digital currency. It's just a fact, Keith. It's just a fact. You cannot track cash. And unless that victim, the worker who's paying for their own work permit, sometimes even the employer's trade and business license, yes, because if the trade and business license is about to expire, that will actually inhibit, cause the submission of a work permit to either be rejected, refused, or not being able to be submitted because it's either about to expire or expiring on the day of submission, guess what? That work permit is not going to be accepted. So many a times these workers even opt to pool together to pay their very employer's trade and business fees. But unless they speak, the very same Caymanians that are crying for immigration reform because we don't want them here are exploiting the very same workers. That speaks a lot about us. Us as in Caymanians. Damien, contributions generally can't be cashed in except on retirement or as otherwise permitted under the specific plan, rules, and law. Contributions generally cannot be cashed. That's pensions you're talking about, Damien, right? Damien Henry. But what we're saying, because persons are opting out and wanting to go, it is stated here that it can take that process once you can demonstrate, if you're not 65, it takes 2 years for you to get your pension. But if the environment is becoming of such that persons is opting to leave and they have been contributing to their pensions, then at the end of the day, what the expatriates who are willing to leave and saying, I don't want to come back, they're asking, why can't I cash out and take it with me? That's the question. And right now, the mechanism, the facilities under the law and the processes should, let's say 30%, let's use a magical number of, let's say 30%, pretty much decides to leave of expatriate workforce. If you think that won't affect business, think again. Yeah. Healthcare, hospitality, and construction would be hit the hardest right now. And Caymanians alone, as I alluded to earlier on, cannot immediately fill these roles due to skill shortages and the sheer number. Look at even our policing, our medical. If everyone was saying, look, I got better opportunities, I'm going. You hear one nationality the most, and that's Jamaicans. No, we're not going on one nationality here. We're just using the number of 30% of expatriates. Bearing in mind, expatriates is anybody who has no status. That could be persons who decide, I'm not even going to be bothered to apply for Caymanian status on the grounds of naturalization. It doesn't make sense. I might as well leave. because I still have kids, yada, yada. It has to come up through the process. And until that happens, for whatever reason, you understand? I'm just looking at 30%. What happens if 30% expats leave? If you think that won't affect businesses, ladies and gentlemen, think again. There will be economic disruptions, such as tourism. And we all know tourism, that's a pillar that Cayman's economy relies on heavily, especially on expatriate workers. For whatever reason, we have heard our Caymanians who have worked in the hospitality industry and state how they have been treated. Okay, fine. Let's just extrapolate 30% of all of those people out of the workforce. And every one of those thousands of positions now, I'm not just talking about hospitality. I'm talking about in general, from financial sector, from the legal sector, straight across the board. This is not even just our trades. I'm speaking straight across the board, okay? Losing 30% of staff would definitely hit those industries the hardest because that is the greatest numbers. Even our restaurants. There will, I'm telling you, be property and infrastructure delays as well. Because in some cases, some of the projects, construction projects, would stall. Yeah, some of them would stall. And economic growth would be impacted. And guess what? Financial services also, because we're not excluding them. While Caymanians are actually well represented in professional roles, many support mid-level positions are filled also by expatriates. Okay. So when you move that 30% out just for the purpose of this conversation, Connie, thank you. Miss Lisa, how are you? Been a while. Good evening, Sabrina. Expats must be thankful if we have given them a privilege to work for years. Be satisfied to take what you have made and go build your own country. Thank you for that statement. Lisa also says we must take care of our people first. It's time to stand up and unite. Lisa, I'm not denying that. I'm just giving you sheer facts. If that exodus of 30%, Lisa, leaves here at one time and not transition, and there is nothing in our legislation that mandates anybody to stay here right now, if let's say the magic number of 30% of our expatriates straight across the board decide, say, I am going to leave, be it in 3 months, 6 months, whatever, please don't misread for the purpose of the discussion. I am pro-Caymanian, but I'm also pro-facts if it's not managed properly. This has nothing to do with politics. This is just sheer conversation and facts. When you look at even the financial services strain, while, you know, as I said, some of those middle positions, and you see it too, Miss Lisa. Lisa, you see it in government. You see it as well. The upward mobility is difficult. I am pro-Caymanian. But at the end of the day, and you haven't worked in education, with all of those scholarships being given, if every one of those, based on the subjects that they went away for their major, was to come back, can you honestly say that they would be able to fill the thousands of roles that would become available immediately or over 6 months if 30% of the expat population leaves? You would have those numbers. I'd be in a better position right now, Miss Lisa, than me to say that, is what I'm saying. Yeah. So going back to the removal of 30%, because there's nothing that mandates anybody to stay here. They're free to go. They're free to go. And if a lot of them decide to take the clarion call of our locals to say, leave, go, can't wait to see the back of you, and we don't have sufficient persons to actually fill those space immediately, there's less workforce. You will have a slowdown in service, you'd have shortened business hours, and possible unreliable operations. then you'd have less business activities. This is not loan and gloom. I'm just using this for an example. We have owners stop investing possibly in expansion. We could have, and this is all from this article, which I'll share again. There would be like no new businesses and restaurants or services. And that in itself will create some opportunities, but it will also create Caymanians a loss of opportunities as well. Revenues will also drop. And government collects less in duties, fees, taxes, budget shrinks, and social programs will suffer. Bearing in mind, there's still a percentage of this revenue measures that is proposed that hinge on the very same work permits that we're saying go and don't come back. That is the key of what I'm saying. It's how government is going to make their revenue. And if that 30% doesn't come, how does that impact the revenue stream? We will see price rise in groceries and utilities, and housing may be available. Oh, yeah. But they could actually be more expensive as well, because you got to make that shortfall. Supply and demand. And in this case, it could be a reverse, but the price does not go down. And our very own Caymanians will feel squeezed. Now, some of us will not get it really until it actually become a reality. But families could possibly struggle even harder. And worst of all, what could be the biggest implication of this? Sticking on the 30%, just leaving? This jurisdiction could lose its competitive edge. Because we become even more expensive, unattractive, and pretty much unstable for both residents and investors. Because the environment that we're breeding is, you only good enough to pay the higher fees so that we can milk off of you. And, but yeah, don't cross that line. Ain't nobody gonna stutter for that. And you know what happens with reputational risks, huh? It's almost impossible to reverse if we don't get it right. And again, also, Miss Dorothy, good evening. How are you, my love? Live happy. Hello. Good evening to you. Damien, in the UK, if you cash in your pension before the minimum age, which is 55, you will be subject to a significant tax charge of up to 55% on the amount withdrawn. Oh, wow. Oh, thank you for that information, Damien. Oh, wow. Well, like I said, persons are asking if they so choose to leave, whether or not they can go with their pension. Now, if there's going to be a penalty, whatever that percentage is, it's for our lawmakers to actually say that. And this could be a national debate. It could be a national discussion. But here we go again. The persons that are wanting to leave are not Caymanians. And should those departure of pensions actually be depleted, it's not only expatriates that are paying pensions. It's not only expatriates, Caymanians are paying pensions as well. And the removal of, let's say, 30% for the purpose of this conversation is going to impact that. Miss Dorothy, thank you so much. You're making a lot of sense. Damien Henry, I don't know if it was kaboom. Live happy. We will just have to adjust, like how we are adjusting to this chaos. We need that slowed down to recalibrate. Yeah, we need to slow down. Nobody, live happy, nobody is saying that. As I'm saying, it can't be done and it could have unintended consequences. And at the end of the day, irreparable damage. But I do get the point. Something must be done. Please do not misunderstand me. And this is not no fence riding. I'm just sharing with you facts. I have always done my research. I have other articles that I read as well for persons who are looking at it, economists and all that sort of stuff. I am just hoping, as the chairman of Finance Committee says, that he actually consulted with the ESO department. And I am hoping that the Attorney General has been consulted as well with some of these. But when you're looking at filling the gap, going back to Lisa, and also Live Happy with, we need to recalibrate. The numbers mismatch. And again, this is also articulated in the other article, in that article. And kudos to that author. I'm going to get you the name. Caymanians' population is simply too small to replace thousands of expatriates in a short period of time. And we have identified as a jurisdiction that we have skills gap. We do have a skill set gap. And many of expatriates bring specialized skills that range from medical professionals to accountants, even though we have a number of our lawyers and accountants that feels they have been displaced, disenfranchised because they don't see themselves moving up. Because of the sheer demand for these services being heavily reliant on income from financial services, there is a skill set gap, which is why, again, which is making this conversation make sense. You have the very honorable minister on the floor of Parliament saying now that he has to work with the Minister of Education and other agencies, including health, so that we can fill this gap to eventually get there. What happens during that time if we want in this current immigration reform? Y'all need to go. We will slow down our economy until we upskill our locals to hold every job. That's the balance that I'm talking about. There is a training pipeline that is needed, and the honorable minister has alluded to it. And upskilling our locals will take some time. We have to invest in education. We have to look at where technology is going and entrepreneurship as well. We have to be able to create that environment that we harness and create more entrepreneurs, creating jobs for themselves and others. And really, those are some of the only ways that we can actually cut back on the reliance of expatriate laborers. But in all honesty, as hard as this pill is to swallow, let's be honest. Cayman cannot function without expatriates. If even 30% of them left over 3 or 4 months, thousands of jobs will sit empty. And I challenge anyone to do that exercise right now based on data to see how much positions would become available. Because Caymanians, as we are calling for alone, cannot fill every vacancy. Not because we lack the talent, but because our population is just too small and the skill set is real. That gap is real. It's real. This is not a reflection of Caymanians being incapable. No, at no point did I say that. It's a reflection on really how deeply our economy depends. Don't care how you put the lipstick on the pig. We depend on foreign labor. That's every country. To say we have not failed our people by not putting more belts and braces on how easily one can acquire Caymanian citizenship, yes, we could have done a better job. But at the end of the day, let me tell you something. We cannot deny that. Good evening, caller. How are you? Welcome to the show. You're live.
Okay, good evening.
How are you, Miss Barb?
I'm good. Oh, I couldn't get a bill calling her.
I want you to call. I want you to call.
I am just wondering
Uh-huh.
when when are we going to realize that every last one of us on this rock has foreign blood from somewhere? We all came from somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Came out and just bubbled up out the ground, and then all of a sudden there were people. No, only Adam and Eve got a claim.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem that I am seeing is that they're making this big issue and talking about having get rid of foreigners and running them out and all the rest of it. It is horrible. It is mean.
It's divisive.
And it
Very
and it's
divisive.
about time someone just darn well spoke the truth and
Mm-hmm.
stop that garbage,
Mm-hmm.
because I am so tired of hearing it.
Mm-hmm. They're not
And
being factual. Politicians must stop pretending that this is a simple fix.
yeah, well, that is just it. We would still be beating mosquitoes with smoke pan if we didn't have foreigners come in and put electricity and every damn thing else that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And now, but it's almost like like all of a sudden it's a we're us against them.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, who is us
Mm-hmm.
and who are they? You know, I needed some work done in my house. I asked three different Caymanian, they're my Caymanian, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
three different ones. I'm still waiting for one to show up.
Oh wow.
Okay, I had a Cuban that came. I had a Jamaican that came. I'm still waiting for a Caymanian to show up. So let's stop the garbage man. Enough
Mm-hmm.
is enough. You know, if all
Mm-hmm.
these people decided tomorrow to leave, you know what? If they won't kick us out, I am one too. My mother was from damn Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm 75 darn years old. And you're not gonna find me talking like I'm listening to. I am so tired of hearing it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired of hearing it. And
Mm-hmm.
and they just we gotta learn to live together.
Mm-hmm.
That is the big problem we have.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be quite honest. Lot of our own people get jobs. 10 minutes later, they want to leave that job, go to another one
They're job
because
hopping.
they can. Yeah. So what do we want to do? Put all these people are coming in here and putting all their money into this island. Do we want them to be in position that they cannot bring in labor laborers that they need, because we have Caymanians that's not work. A lot of our Caymanians that's not working don't want to work. Sorry, but that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm hearing
I,
you. Go ahead.
I'm, it is just it is. My husband managed pulley cabinets for 26+ years. He ran an advertisement over and over. You know how many Caymanians applied for the job? 5 in 20 odd years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One was hired. One was hired. One was hired that I know about, personally know about, that had to be trained.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't stick. There was there was a young man that actually he was not fine. He was not Caymanian,
Mm-hmm.
and that left and went to public works partially.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, 5 in 26 years. Caymanians don't apply for those jobs because too much work. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
truth is truth.
Which we've highlighted that in certain countries, even the United States right now, the farm workers, which is why that visa was the fees were so high, because Americans refuse to go work on these farms and the poultry farms, and it doesn't matter. Even crop dusters and stuff, you know, they just refuse to do certain jobs.
This was building cabinets, and you could learn how to do it. I retired from social services, not a boredom. I went and worked and learned to build cabinets and worked there for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I can build any cabinet, match anybody building a cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm a woman.
Right.
But all you hear is, this one not gonna work. This one not gonna work. You're not gonna work. You're not gonna work. Why? Why is the question that everybody missing?
And there's there's no problem with a citizen of a country, Caymanians, having pride by saying,
Correct.
I would never be caught being a cashier at Foster's. It's an honest living. I would never, ever be caught working in the laundry room of a hotel. Look, if that's the only way I'm going to make an income, if I cannot create an income for myself, I'm not going to frown at it. I'm going to apply.
I did it. I worked in the hotel. I went from front desk to having to clean bathrooms in the middle of the night. Somebody came in and we didn't have a clean room. You know, I worked 3 jobs at one time. And yet I'm listening to these people all the time. I can't find no work. They don't want to hire us. With that kind of attitude and the way I'm listening to some people, I'm sorry. I love my people, but I love everybody.
Mm-hmm. Because it takes all of us to make it work. We have to coexist because we can't. We cannot, if we continue to want these opportunities for our kids, want persons to support our businesses, which are Caymanian-owned businesses, out say from a local license control law that you have an LCCL, you understand? All these businesses that are operated are owned by Caymanians. If we just remove them, then what happens? There's another person. Yeah, that's true. A Caymanian says they work at a gas station for $6.80 an hour, and they're darn good at their job. And this is not because I know this commenter. They have one of the best personalities, and they're not ashamed. But you know how much people I have seen gone to restaurants and being served by some Caymanians and even some fast food joints, and they look at them like, look at what she come to. Look at what he come to. They make you feel like nothing because you're doing those jobs, yet they're there looking for the service. That has something to do with the culture and the psyche of our very own people, which is why some of our very own Caymanians would prefer to go to NAU for help, because our very own Caymanians frown at them when they see them doing certain menial jobs.
Yes, correct. That is extremely common. No, it just irks me to listen to this garbage day in and day out, and it's getting worse because it's from people that know better.
Can you imagine something?
It's coming from people that know better.
Exactly. Miss Barbara, can you imagine now what headlines that would make if, for some reason, my resort in making another income is that I go mango tree as a server? You think about what I just said. Or I go to ask Mr. Woody, can you give me a little part-time thing as a cashier?
Yeah. So
you know what they would say? Big old minister, she didn't get elected, and look at what she gone to. They actually frowning at me for making an income.
Listen to me, your own tick bite to the hardest.
When I'm only serving my own people, maybe I may like the vibes of a mango tree, or call Luigi and say, yo, my dude, I need help. Teach me how to mix drinks. I need to be able to help you. I need a job. Can you help me out here? Can you imagine what kind of headline that would be made? I bet you that would be the most persons go to Cabana or Mango Tree if they hear Sabrina working there at a server just to see me waiting tables.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be for the right reasons. It would be for all the wrong reasons.
I can't believe that was she going to. Oh my God. Really?
Correct. 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 They don't realize that the pride, you know, in earning your own money, that the pride you feel from not having to depend on NAU, I mean, come on, gone are the days. Gone are the days that pride even much mattered anymore. I'm
Exactly.
looking at, and it's pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so tired of hearing the foolishness. And they know it foolishness when they're saying it.
And this is
Come
why.
on.
This is why I'm
If they
taking.
don't, then they shouldn't be in position.
I'm a little offended that what's going to be what is being stated by our elected arm is that these impositions of how government are proposing to make revenue is not going to affect the domestic market. I read another article today from people in the law firm that saying there was a quote that, it's not really going to impact them. Oh, no, because you're going to put that on to anyone who's retaining your services based on how much hour you are you're costing. What's going to happen is that the average person's not going to be able to afford to retain the services of legal counsel. They will then still have to go to legal aid. And who still picks up that tab? The very same government.
Hey, man, Trump.
So you have certain industries, yes, that will say, oh no, these imposition of these fees are not going to help us. They are already factoring in how they're going to bury the additional in fees. But it's going to make it harder for you and I, Miss Barbara, to get those services.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody got to pay for it.
It's no free lunch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more and more we're getting that. Pardon me?
As it never was and it never will be.
Exactly.
No matter how you fool yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know. We have to, and thank you for calling in and actually voicing your opinion, because I feel that there is a false narrative that being spread because you have to do a checkbox exercise. But when that is born on not 100% of the truth, we have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because we cannot exist. The numbers are not matching up without expatriates and the help.
Mm-hmm.
So our politicians, our leaders need to stop. It's not as simple as it appears. Making these statements and stuff that is not, it's going to indirectly impact every one of us. And that is no nationality. That's all nationalities who decide to fight the fight here with us. And for those who decide they want to leave, that's totally their choice. There is nothing that says you have to remain.
Mm-hmm. Not one single thing.
But if they want to leave, that's their choice. And if you want to say, well, they only intended, I saw a comment here that the reason why some of them want to stay here is only to acquire status. Well, if we've created that environment and they have not breached any laws, they have become a part of us and share in our culture and want to be a part of who we are, then why not make that accessible to them?
Well, that is my whole point, that every one of us came from somewhere else.
Exactly.
Everyone. So cut the crop. Pardon me, Frank.
The good thing is with this, I'm not on radio, so you can go there. You can go there.
I came by that honestly too.
Yeah.
The French.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, my sweet. Thank you for sharing that as well.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks
Have a
for
good evening.
You too, honey. Bye.
Sure. Bye. Yeah, thank you, caller, for sharing. I love to hear to speak to Miss Barbara. Honest to God, Denver. I started working at Cayman Kai Resort, dumping garbage and cutting grass, which took me all over America. You see there, those was transferable skills. And like I said, it is just a culture thing that we actually frown at our people. I remember pulling up me and fast food. Oh God, I pulled up to a fast food joint and I made my order, and the voice that came over the intercom, that was so refreshing. Let me tell you something. When I realized that that was a Caymanian voice, I was excited to actually drive up to the window. And when I got to the window, it only solidifies what I've said. I says, I didn't ask any question. I just confirmed. I am so proud to hear one of my own take in my order. And I said, don't you make anybody push you out of here. And I said, you be proud of what you're doing. And you, whenever anybody actually makes that order and they hear one of us, trust me, it is refreshing. It is refreshing. But the demeanor that I saw of the individual, the nice little young lady at the window, she was almost, when she realized that I was actually commending her, at first she was like almost ashamed that she was there. And there was absolutely nothing wrong. When she realized where I was going, that I was actually applauding her for being there, you could see this whole weight just lift off of her. And she said, thank you, with the sweetest smile. Now, because it's a fast food joint, I hadn't gone there in a while. And not to say that it's fast food's bad. But unfortunately, that was short-lived for whatever reason. Whatever reason. But what I'm saying, I don't know how many Caymanians heard a Caymanian voice, taken their order, and really complimented how proud they were of hearing their own, taking their order. Because sometimes you actually say, how may I take your order? I say in English, please. You literally have to say that because you're having a hard time with them repeating to you their order, your order. So it was really good. And I mean, look at Eats. We had our own Betty, who retired after 40 something years. I stand to be corrected. And she did that job with pride. It was a pleasure going to Eat Legends and Betty serving you. We have so much persons that are in there. But again, it's how we treat our own in certain sectors that some people would prefer to stay home because they're ashamed. And we Caymanians have actually created that void, that gap. But again, the sheer numbers cannot fill every position. It cannot fill every position. That's just the truth. I have a commenter saying, I pray error for and a leave. Monica, I gotta agree with you here. It's to prove a point. It's to prove a point. And if that is the great reset that we're looking for, Monica, I guess only time will tell. Keith, there are many employers who do not want to hire Caymanians because a Caymanian will not allow them to do what they are doing. Those people that are on work permits that work for them. Yes, Keith, that's true. And this is why, at the end of the day, enforcement is going to be critical in this reform. And if enforcement do not hold some of these employers who are actually doing malicious things to these foreign expatriate workers who remain silent, then of course. But now if we ramp up our enforcement arms and going in to make sure that, they are doing and creating an environment that is not in any breach of legislation, maybe at the end of the day, you will have their behaviors change. Denver, you from Cayman, right? That's why. Yes. That was transferable because I saw it. I saw your comment earlier on, Shaq. You're absolutely right, Miss Sabrina. Our mindset really needs to shift. It's toxic. Yeah, Shaq. I mean, can you imagine like what I said? If me now, they got go back into my history. Well, gee, some peace. She was a nurse. She worked immigration. Then she had her own business. She won Radio Cayman. Then she ran for politics and she lost. And look at what she come to. Look at you now serving food. Really? Really? Good evening, caller. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just touch on this thing about decreasing the population.
Go ahead.
Imagine for a second that you went to a bank and you borrowed $10 million and you built 4 units
Mm-hmm.
on a parcel of land, and they were being rented out for various purposes. And one day something happened that you couldn't use either 25 or 50%
Mm-hmm.
of the units. What would have just happened there is, let's say you have a $10 million loan, and the mortgage payment on that is, just for argument, $250,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you couldn't use 25 or 50% of the unit. You still owe the bank
Yeah.
$250,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
but now your income is severely
Less.
cut
Yeah.
because you can't rent the other 25 or 50% of the unit.
Mm-hmm.
That is the situation we would find ourselves in
Oh, yeah.
if we just tried cutting population like some people are describing.
Well, like I only use, just for the pulling a number out of the air, if 30% just chose to leave, I just pull a number. And I've had people agreeing with me the number doesn't add up with 1,400 and odd persons being unemployed, which means that the rest are employed. It's not working out. It's not making sense. We can't.
I want to dispel the notion that somehow you could just snap your finger and tell 25 or 30% of the people to just go home.
Mm-hmm.
That would put us in a very difficult financial situation.
The sad
And
thing is, though, Calder.
No, but wait a second. If there are people who think that we can do it,
Uh-huh.
I want to hear the argument.
Hmm.
Call into the show and tell us how we could make it work financially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because the Cayman Islands government would find, you see, the reason why the discussion is happening about the budget in the way that it is right now
Mm-hmm.
is because the government in the current circumstances are saying we need more money in order to be able to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to reduce the source of the revenue by removing 25 or 30% of the population,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have a need for an even greater amount of revenue from those who remain.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hear someone call in and tell us how you make it work.
It'll be interesting.
I'm interested in hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that we can change things over a longer
Oh,
period of
transition.
time,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but snapping your finger and telling people to leave, that's not going to happen because the government would jeopardize all of the projects it's trying to do at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That idea that you can do that also jeopardizes people who depend on government, like seamen and veterans and indigent persons for health reasons.
Mm-hmm.
All of those persons would suddenly find themselves without sufficient funding
Uh-huh.
for their needs. And so the government would have to then jack up the rates on the rest or start firing people because they wouldn't have the money to pay for the expenses. Services would have to be cut.
Mm-hmm.
The government would be saying, well, tell us which services you want us to do away with because we don't have enough income to pay for the services. So tell us what we got to cut. I'd like to hear what persons think about that.
There's a comment that says, the real Michelle Teresa said, the risk management report in the event 25 to 30% of some 59,000 employed persons would destroy our economy. and they agree with you that you're spot on, caller. So it is, and I was not, the whole idea of this discussion this evening was born on people are saying, look, we don't have a problem leaving, but can we leave with our pension?
Yeah, but even if you said you can leave with your pension, that doesn't negate the fact that we still owe the bank $10 million and have to pay a loan of $250,000 a month.
I agree with you,
Okay.
but these
So-
are the people that there are no legislations anyhow that says you still can't leave, and that debt will still be.
Yes.
So this is why if the environment is not conducive, and if we don't dial it back just a little bit, that's a reality.
Well, what we need to actually be talking about now, I'm still interested in hearing the argument for it, because I want to consider what whoever thinks we can reduce the population have to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we need to be focusing on how can we make government more efficient. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I heard your comments about the central bank digital currency
Mm-hmm.
and how
Oh,
it
about
could
tracking
be
these persons who are paying for their own work permits, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm.
right. So let's just say that I go up to a water fountain and I decide I'm going to get a glass of water. I could recklessly go to the water fountain and not consider what this strange looking color in the water is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I could just drink because I'm thirsty. And
Mm-hmm.
all I'm thinking about is what I need at the moment, not realizing that strange colors arsenic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be dead soon because I didn't consider the risk
Mm-hmm.
associated with the
Yes.
actions I was taking. And what I'm saying is that you could make the argument that a pro of central bank digital currency is that you would be able to identify that particular crime.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're overlooking is the risk of what politicians can do, the harm that they can do. And so you have to ask yourself, is it really worth losing our rights and our freedoms because we want to identify someone who's having their employee pay for their work
Work
permit?
permit. Mm-hmm.
I think the argument should really be that the persons who are being wronged
Mm-hmm.
should report that that is happening. I understand what the risk is to them, but what they're asking me is I need to risk my freedoms because they're too afraid, and my answer to that is no.
Mm.
I'll leave it there for today.
Oh, thank you so much. Very interesting. Let's just get away in on this. We got Dane Gillette that says capitalism is never enough. Capitalism needs people and money to exploit. What's your take on that?
Well, there's always risk in things you do, right? So will there be an opportunity for someone to exploit someone in any given situation?
Yes.
But if you think socialism and communism is a solution, you're not thinking about the risk there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, um, I went to Cuba once, and I was talking to someone, and I asked, "Is it really true that everyone is equal in the system?"
Mm-hmm.
And the answer that I got back was no, because it's they all make less money,
Mm-hmm.
but not an equal amount of money,
Ah,
which is the same
same
for
thing.
us,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Relatively speaking. But except that you've lost your freedoms, because now these central planners get to decide what you do, when you do it, how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
how long you will do it for, or whether you'll do it at all.
Mm.
instead of you deciding whether you're going to get on a plane because you've worked hard all year and you want to go on a vacation. You're free to do that. I think we need to be careful not to squander the freedoms that veterans have died for.
Right.
Okay. I saw a video of a man in the UK dressed in his military uniform, and he was complaining. The caption on it was really a complaint to police officers who are trying to prosecute people for just making simple comments on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically saying that's not what he fought for.
Mm.
He fought for freedom. And in his old age, he's witnessing the destruction of the freedoms that he fought for. What I'm want to say to the Caymanian people today is this: rights cost you something. It costs your participation. Sometimes it risks you having to lose other things,
Mm-hmm.
but the benefit of having the freedom is worth the fight. Because if you didn't have the freedom,
Mm-hmm.
just imagine that you would have to do what you are told by the authorities, and if you don't do it,
Right.
or you're not able to do it because you're perhaps not as well physically as you would like to be,
Mm-hmm.
that there's negative I can't
Repercussion.
even say it for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so um, you have to realize that socialism and communism
Mm-hmm.
is being sold to the world as a new improved version.
Mm.
It didn't work. It's not working now, and it never will work.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you strip the freedoms away from people, they become dependent on the government. And dependency on government is not um, the definition of prosperity.
Right.
So I would seriously like to discourage people, despite the challenges that we face, understand that the challenges can be overcome if we come together and put our minds to coming up with practical solutions to addressing those problems.
Mm-hmm.
If we throw our hands up in the air and we say, that's not my problem, you will one day realize why that attitude is wrong when the government steps on an area that does affect you,
Mm-hmm.
and then nobody else cares about what your situation is.
Right.
Okay, it'll come into sharp focus.
Mm-hmm.
But I implore the Caymanian people not to have the attitude that we just start kicking butt, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about the consequences afterwards, because that's not going to help us.
Correct.
But I am willing to listen to the argument about how we can get rid of people.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear it.
Okay. Well,
I'm challenging those people
the space is here, and we
to
are
articulate.
more than accommodating to hear their side of it. And I will be sharing a link of an article, which I'm quite sure you'll find interesting as well, because it aligns with exactly what you're saying. The author is a Kerwin Boxill, and I'm sharing the link on my thing on the right now, that you can go and read this article. And it's really, it's sobering, to be honest, to say the least, to show that everyone is looking at it. And it says the quiet crisis no one wants to admit, what massive fee hikes and wage change will really do to Cayman. And what is contained therein is exactly along the lines of those who are objective and real but it's pointing out, well laid out, well articulated there in that link, exactly what could become of us if we are buying this crap, to be honest with
Well,
you.
the argument that that the rollover period should be for 2 years instead of one,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any document that I could point to and say factually um, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But my gut reaction on how I think people will behave,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to work out well for Cayman.
Well,
Because 2 years is a long time.
well, what is being said is that now that we won't know on because it'll now be debated in 2026. I guess the ministry now is compiling all the information that they got based on the town hall meetings, what feedback they got from industry stakeholders and persons alike in advocacy groups, in order for it to be debated on the floor of Parliament now in 2026. So it doesn't appear as though based on how things are going right now with timing, that it will be debated now.
Well, just think about it. If you were running a business and you had to find someone to replace someone for 2 years, like after 2 years of training and whatever else, why would you just up and get rid of that person to
But what are
bring the
you talking
person
about
up?
training? The whole idea for the
No, 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 no,
rollover
no,
was to
no, no,
replace Caymanians, and
no, no,
Caymanians will remain
no.
with you forever.
Okay, that's not going to happen because you don't have enough Caymanians.
Well, that's
Is
what.
the point?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So yeah,
Yeah,
I love this
it's
devil's advocate that we play with each other, but
yeah, it's we don't have enough, but and it's not that the person can't come back and work for someone else.
else.
But the point that I'm making is that not only do you have someone getting used to how you do business, their
Mm-hmm.
customers, what your customers like, there's always continual training in a lot of positions.
Mm-hmm.
And so it costs you as a business to invest in someone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Well, if they go away and then go and come back and work for your competitor, you see that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not a that's an I just don't think
And
that's going 2 years is I think that's unnecessary.
And the share
I,
size of our country alone and looking at your competitors, it's a very small pool, which could do some serious trade secret deals based on the position that they were in, how you conduct business and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it is a risk. But you know what? The people are asking for change. The people are asking for legislation that protects us as Caymanians. The whole takeaway here today was to give some sobering realities, as you are rightfully alluding to. Let's hear the argument, the sound justification, or how you can defend that it's okay for a certain percentage, be it 30, 10%, pretty much over a period of 3, and don't replace those persons at all, how we would function.
well, there is so when you have policies that you're hoping will result in a certain outcome, I think some of these things are a bit harsh, a bit extreme, and they don't really address what the real issues are. For the most part, what I'm hearing is that certain types of offenses are either not reported or on the side of the government, not issues are not there isn't sufficient enforcement.
Or to really,
You
yeah.
could change your policies to be whatever you want it to be. If you're still not enforcing
If
it, you're still going to
it's
end
for
up in
not
the same
correct,
position.
correct.
And so what I would prefer that we do is that instead of making just radical changes, why don't we just say, well, okay, how do we better enforce this?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that seems a more practical approach than, you know, um, just trying to have these wild changes because people asked for them.
Yeah. But then some of the breaches could be some of our very own, just saying, in high positions,
Well,
just for conversation.
even if you had a communist system, that would be the case as well. So I mean, that's
Just thought I would inject that.
so how would we deal with corruption in high places? Well, the same way that someone who's being asked to pay for their own work permit
Correct.
would have to be, you'd have to come up with the courage to deal with
To
it.
just deal with it.
I mean, it's not really rocket science. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it wouldn't have a cost. But if society, if we collectively said we're going to support people who take that position,
Mhm.
that they're going to root out that type of corruption that's destroying the quality of life that we enjoy,
Mhm.
then people would have more courage and we'd have a better country for it, rather
Mhm.
than letting politicians take us down wild rides.
Correct. Denver says, I believe there are about 3,000 people on island without work, being imported workers without a job at all times, which our government should focus on removing. And Denver, what I would say here is that when you align who those persons who are so-called freelancing because their primary employer just does not have adequate work for them, then they should be penalized. There should be some form of action taken against those employers, in my humble
Actually, I
opinion.
want to say something about that, because one of the things that the government is proposing is that you not be able to go from one employer to the next without leaving the island.
Job
I think it
hopping.
is.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not crazy about that idea.
But what
Because,
happens when you don't have sufficient work?
well, okay. I heard the gentleman talking about in construction, right? But let's say that you are a laborer in the construction industry and you don't have work for the person anymore.
Mhm.
What's wrong with the immigration department or the government having a policy that says that that person who's already here,
Mhm.
if they can lawfully and efficiently register to change the employment to another one that does have work, what's wrong with that?
Mm.
I mean, I don't see what's wrong. The one employer doesn't have the work,
Mhm.
someone else does. Why not just allow that person to transition to the new employer? And I know that this wouldn't be true for all
Yeah,
industries,
yeah.
right?
Because
But
you do have some that just come
that's
specifically
correct.
because Danny, you my friend, or you know me and you went to school, and it and this is my cousin that I just found. Can you just take out a work permit? And you know, they will find something, and eventually then we can transfer to the real employer. But you know, me and you go way back. Can you just help me out here?
Yeah,
Can you?
but
That is
but
what
my
bad
comments,
behaviors is trying to be
yeah, but
stopped.
my comments were in relation to someone who's a laborer in
No,
the
I know.
construction industry
And having
being a
to.
laborer in the construction industry for a different employer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I understand how that industry is. It's not as as smooth sailing as some people think it is. It's very
Correct.
challenging.
It is. And
And
this is, go ahead.
for this type of supply of labor, when one doesn't have it,
Mm-hmm.
and the other does, I I'm not I would think it would be foolish to say that a laborer has to leave the country and then apply for another employer. That don't make sense to
Well,
me.
someone working in the construction industry called yesterday and said that and I can see where they're going with their suggestion, because they are in the construction industry, that they felt that any construction company who is doing business out there, especially building something under 3,000 square feet, they should not be allowed to have any work permit holders. And like the same job title that you're calling right now, laborers should never be on work permits, because we have enough Caymanians that are trying to get upskilled, that are trying to get trained, that there shouldn't be any laborer's work permit being issued to no foreign national.
Well, I'm not in a position to be too definitive on that particular point. So I mean, I can't really
Mhm.
speak to that.
No, but they're saying for
Uh,
opportunities, if we want to improve the skill sets and to
they,
give our
yeah,
people these
they might be
technical. Mhm.
Yeah, they might be correct,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
This is why I said
it
I
might be.
understand where he was coming from and I appreciate
Yeah.
that thought. But again, it goes back down to the sheer numbers with all of the projects and stuff that we actually have going on right now. Would you be able to just do that blanket? And Tartarian is saying, to be honest, we Caymanians don't have a problem with work permits. The main problem is status. Caymanians should be happy for guest workers to flow in and out. I want our young Caymanians to own a home.
Well, I can identify with that statement because I think what the issue is how many people are coming and how many people should be allowed to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And if the number of persons who are allowed to come and stay, meaning for the rest of their lives, is greater than the number of persons who um the number of Caymanians that are being born,
Mm-hmm.
that culture and tradition and stuff that you were talking about earlier
Mm-hmm.
is going to be severely disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
For true.
I have a distinct memory uh, that happened just after Hurricane Ivan. I could feel the shift in culture in the Cayman Islands. It was like almost instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
We went from a place where people would let you out of a road,
Yeah.
so you having
Courtesy
to
came
fight just
back.
to
Yeah.
survive on the traffic in the
Correct.
traffic,
Correct.
and that um, degradation, I think, has continued. That's an example of a shift in how people view behavior,
Mm-hmm.
because what we are is an average of the individual morality of the
Mm-hmm.
population. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so if more people have better ethics, good culture versus people who have changed their culture or just have a different one
Mm-hmm.
that isn't compatible with yours because, well, where they're from, they just don't let people out at all.
Correct.
That's going to show up in the average behavior.
Yeah.
And for me, Hurricane Ivan was that period where Cayman took a drastic turn from where we were going culturally.
It kind of almost like
And
recalibrate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is
Anyhow,
what I
I'll
think
leave it
people
there.
are asking for with this immigration reform. But
Well,
it's different times now. And that is where the balance, it's a delicate
well,
balance.
why is it that the government is rejecting the cap that I have proposed on the number of people who should be allowed to get status, uh, and any, say, in a period of a year?
Mm.
Why is the government rejecting that?
Well, I guess that statement will come when it's being debated on the floor of Parliament in 2026. But there's still an
Well,
opportunity between now and then for you to engage with the necessary powers that be to ask for the question. Maybe they may have a change of heart.
well, the it can't be because it's hard to do. General registry makes it very clear that it's not difficult to do,
Mm-hmm.
to determine the numbers you would need to work with in order to implement such a policy. It doesn't
Right.
require us doing a census or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
The information
and
is
if
there.
and if you say that you want controls, but you don't want to put in place provisions that bring
Troll.
controls,
Mm-hmm.
then it causes me to question whether you're actually interested in controls at all, or whether you're interested in the status quo by another name.
Okay. Well, we can only wait and see, my dear.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good
All right.
evening. Yes.
You too.
Sure. Bye-bye. Always good to get to bounce off of Denny, and Denny come with thought-provoking addition to her discussion. Barbara G says, owning a house should in no way be part of qualifying for residency. This is only pushing the prices up for everyone. Yes, that has been identified as well, Ms. Barbara, and we're hoping now that these are all the factors, if they're going to be looking at the point system for permanent residents, that will be also taken into consideration with this review. Denver, not only on status, but certain nationalities should be a cap. Yes, and that actually, Denver is in the point system for permanent residents, that they look at the data of how much nationalities, and there are actually points that are taken away for those nationalities that are in high number. And we've identified here today, in me preparing for this topic, that Jamaica still stand at the highest number, led then by Indians. And yeah, so they're climbing, and Filipino nationals also have the numbers. But remember, everyone now that is absorbed, be it by marriage, by naturalization, or by PR, eventually will become Caymanians. So we're seeing where we're looking a little different as Caymanians. But yes, there we go. We have come to the end of another, by 6 minutes, another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here. And I hope that you were, it's as sobering as this conversation was. I could be honest with all of you. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for joining me. As sobering and as hard as it was for me trying to project and to deliver today's episode in a respectful manner, in one that how you process it and how you think of where I'm trying to stand would probably make me feel anti-Caymanian or whatever. Oh, and yeah, Denny, they said we must give you a kaboom. You've been getting a lot of those, Denny. And Connie's even agreeing with you. But yeah, these are some of the conversations that we're having to have that is going to be difficult. And as a host, as someone who is delivering, as someone who is having to do the research, let me tell you, many times I'm like, brace for impact, girl. And just keep focused, keep honest, keep truthful, keep neutral, keep nonpartisan, but have the real conversation, because somebody has to do it. And this is why your feedback is critical. Your feedback, your participation, be it commenting, calling in, is critical, because I'm here to not only just talk, to deliver the facts. And at the end of the day, this is happening real, whether or not we want to admit it or not. But the lines are blurred, and how the information right now is being presented, there's more questions than answers. So until tomorrow, it has been a pleasure. Connie saying, yes, she agrees with you, Danny. Good night. Oh, good night to you, my love. Thanks for another great show. You're more than welcome, Miss Barbara. Thank you for participating. So doesn't government have the power to control prices and consumer protection? That requires Dean Shillette political will. And we have been hearing persons ask for some consumer protection laws, but of course, maybe that's something that we can look into as well. How could that have an impact on us? We need to look at all of these things and how we're asking for these, because there is a national broad impact on any decision that we make, even though people have been calling for consumer protection legislation for years. Price control, hold on. You may think that is the way to go, but it's deeper than that, Dean Shillette. I will probably do some research on that and do the pros and cons for you to let you know how that, if that is mishandled, then I'm sorry, my love. We're going to lose business for you telling me how much I should be selling a tray of eggs for, how much I should be charging for, let's say, getting my nails done. There are just certain things. That is a deeper, and without statistics, Dean, we gotta be careful with that one, to be honest. Yeah, Tartarian. A man told me he would never do certain jobs back in India that he is now doing, that he's doing here in Cayman. It's not only Caymanians that has that attitude. Oh, Tartarian, that is me saying what you can imagine the attention I would get that if I were caught or seen at Foster's being a cashier. Nothing wrong with the job, waiting tables or being a server at Mango Tree Cabana or something like that, how people would behave. Yeah. So again, I agree. Thank you, Tartarian, for sharing that. And it's just how we feel amongst our own. And look at how much the population is in India. But can you imagine if they're saying that and their population is so big, he can move to another part of India and do medial task, whatever, or how you look at it. But again, it's how you're being perceived by your own that is really sad. But for us here in the Cayman Islands, where we don't have nowhere to go, as long as it's an honest living, or if we're in the position to make an income for ourselves, be it cooking food, selling jerk, whatever, as long as it's legal, who cares? You're making an honest living and you're not expecting government assistance. I think we should be applauded for being independent. But again, it has been my pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. It's always good hearing and getting your feedback. It means the world to me. Until tomorrow, please remember the drone show is happening this evening out in town. And I'm not so sure if I'll be going. By the time I get there, it'll probably be done anyhow. So until tomorrow, have a good evening. Love you lots. Good night. Stay safe.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.